All right. So
When we keep moving away from me.
I'm just sitting here
It's all
trying to figure out. It's like, fuck, dude. It's like, I'm gonna bury you, motherfucker. Not catch your head. All right, so I just wanted to have this discussion about, for one, there's a song that I'm working on with my friend Millie from the UK. The song. Shout out to Millie. The song is about addiction and my struggle with alcoholism. And I wanted to just talk to someone who has some number one knowledge and experience about addiction and recovery and that mental health as well. So tell people what your title is, just for the record, so that they know. Like, what do you do?
I'm right now. I work as a therapist and a program manager for a nonprofit in Hollywood. That we mainly work with like unhoused or newly housed populations, and addiction runs rampant in that world.
Yeah.
And then I've worked for years though in the addiction world, and I've been a counselor for over 10 years now, and so that's primarily my so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist also, and that's my specialty, and I'm trying to kind of get back to that, but and I'm in recovery myself for the past 13 years.
Nice.
13 solid.
13 solid. Yeah, you don't give you shit about it.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. And for me, I am in recovery myself. This is my third attempt at it. Like, I've been to treatment 3 times. One was at in Upland at this place IBRS, and the second 2 times was at Charter Oak. And I don't know, something different this time happened, I guess, with the whole experience of like the willingness to surrender and give up.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was broken enough and I was experiencing enough shit. But so I will get into that. But yeah, the music thing, like, it's always been like another therapeutic thing to me. And like, Millie was somebody who reached out, and we've been talking about music ever since I discovered her on Instagram. And then we just kind of developed this relationship and friendship. I'm actually gonna be trying to go out there at some point to go do the music video to some of the songs that we were collaborating on.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then Taylor, what's your experience, sir?
I am in recovery myself. I have tried recovery numerous times, and none of it ever stuck. What's different this time? I think, I don't know. I think, like you were saying, I think I was just broken enough to actually want it this time. I had a previous sponsor who asked me, do I want to be sober or do I have to be sober? And at the time,
That's a good question.
I answered honestly. I was like, I think I just have to be sober. I don't know if I want to be sober.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that started kind of like a real honesty with me this time, where I'm just being honest about what I'm going through instead of just saying what people want to hear,
Yeah.
And, gradually that has changed over just like a month's time, where like I actually want to be sober.
What does that mean? Like when you ask you if you need to be or want to be, like when you say you need to be, why do you need to be?
Because I feel like, you know what I mean? There's no way for me to use without consequences, and they're almost immediate now, where before there was just like, like you could drink and have fun or something at a party or do something with friends and then like feel shitty the next day or whatever, but it was all good. But now it's like almost like those consequences are so immediate, you know what I mean? Like I lose everything.
Yeah.
I end up homeless. Yeah. I end up on the streets, and I'm like, I lose my job. Everything falls so quickly this time. It's just like, you know what I mean? That I'm like, even though the urge to use is still there, like I know that I can't because it's like, like I enjoy living in a house. You're
like, I don't know, not getting rained on and shit, being able to shit not in the gutter, Right. No, you know what? That's a really cool cool way to explain it, because I think when I got sober, like there was a lot of legal consequences. My child was taken. My wife was facing charges. I was facing charges. and so there was a lot of pressure on me not to use. So I needed not to use, and I always say, like, I think when I first came in, I was like, there was 1% of me that wanted to be sober and 99% of me that didn't. And over that first year's period, it shifted. That percentage of the part of me that wanted to stay sober shifted a little bit. And like when I think about your story, Michael, like it seems like, you know, you kind of had like, I think you have these moments where you're like, fuck, I have to change. And then like you get to this weak spot and you go back and then you're like, fuck, I gotta change. And so this last time, it's like you kind of realize, I've been doing this too many times to go back and forth, and maybe you didn't have that legal pressure, or you don't have the homeless pressure going on, shitting in the gutter pressure going on, and like, you know, I had a legal consequence. So, and even with the legal consequences, like where like, you know, I have to be sober so that my kid can come home, and I have to be sober so that, you know, like I don't go to prison. And I mean, I still went to prison anyway, but point being, like I still almost relapsed a bunch of times, you know. So that's crazy. That's craziness, right?
Yeah. That's, I don't know what I think it was like, for me, it was heartbreak. It was also my homie. I was already spiraling because I was just dealing with a lot of shit. And then it was just like, on top of me already being in that spiral, it was like the heartbreak that came. And then it was one of my homies that I went to treatment with last time committed suicide. And while I was already spiraling, I found out about that. And then break up, and then fucking just on the verge of losing a job, and I had worked really hard to get this job. Like, it wasn't just some BS around run-of-the-mill job. So I was like, I thought life was like crumbling, but I think that's what it took for me to really be willing to say, okay, like, let me see what they were talking about and try to like fully surrender to whatever this 12-step program is about. Because you get into the treatment, and it's like, I had been there before, so you have that guilt and shame, like, here we go again. So you don't really want to go back, but I mean, they were super welcoming, and it opened my eyes to be like, damn, like, I'm in and out, and I'm like coming back to people who have been in recovery, because in the treatment, a lot of people that are your counselors and shit, they're in recovery themselves, and they've been sober 10 years, 19 years, and shit like that. So it's like, you see that it's possible. It's like, okay, now, like, this time I was just like, all right, I give up. Like, I always believed in God, so I was like, God, just help me to like heal, help me to like break away from whatever it is. If it's codependency, if it's this self-hatred, self-loathing, this rage and frustration that I felt like I was finally just willing to put it all at the table, or the altar, whatever you call it metaphorically, and allow people to help. And they were there with open arms, and it was crazy too, because I had wrote that song about addiction, and then I was spiraling, and then just prior to that spiral, I had sent the song over to Millie about the addiction, and then she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do something on it, and like she had this whole idea. She was initially gonna have a verse about depression, because she didn't suffer from the addiction, but during the pandemic, just the isolation and stuff, like it affected like mental health. That was the initial idea for it, but then I was like, you have free creativity, like let's just do whatever we're gonna do. And she ended up, her idea was like, I'm gonna be your subconscious responding to you on the second verse. Wow. And that shit, how it came out was fucking awesome. Like it's just a beautiful song, and the release date is to be determined, but the authenticity, just the realness that is in that track for me, like I sent it over to her, and then I spiraled, I went to rehab, I checked myself in, and then I had help. I was kind of like,
people tackling you and whatnot.
Just slight tackles and stuff, you know. But but I was like pretty active on my social media, and then because me and Millie communicate through social media mainly, so I just disappeared. I was off the grid, because you know when you're in treatment, they keep your phone, so they want you to focus solely on the recovery aspect of it. So I'm like, I was just off the grid, and so she reached out to one of my friends. I had a moment where I was able to check my emails and stuff, and she reached out to Songstress MG, who's another artist that I have done a few songs with, and she didn't know the nature of our relationship, but she just knew that her and I were on songs together and connected through social media. So she reached out to her, like, hey, what's going on with him, and blah blah blah, and she let her know that I was in treatment. So she sent me this email, and I was able to check it, and I got back to her, and she was just crazy supportive. Like, and she was like, I know people who have, like, she knew people personally who have dealt with the struggle of addiction. So she just was just super. She's an awesome artist for one. She's an awesome person. Like, we haven't even met yet in person, but just our interactions through this, like, just the camaraderie from one artist to another is fucking awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. So
It's weird because like I've gone through the thing on a personal level, like you were saying, you know, and gone through like you know, the recovery and aspect of it, and then I went and got, you know, educated on the drug and counseling, and then I got educated in you know, got my master's in marriage and family therapy, which it's all dealing with, you know, all dealing with aspects of psychology, right? And you know, everything makes sense. A lot of things make sense in psychology, except for like addiction. Addiction really doesn't follow a typical pattern. You know,
yeah.
A lot of times people have anxiety that stems from this or from that, or a depression from this or from that. You know, this is like it's a brain disease. You know, like once we start messing with the chemicals in our brain, when we put these chemicals in our body, we trigger like this, you know, cataclysmic event that changes us forever, you know. And you know, there's oftentimes you hear, you know, there's not making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic, you know, or an addict for that matter, you know.
Yeah,
it's just
same shit.
It's because like it's at that point, you know, like our pleasure centers have been fucked with so much that like they skip a bunch of stuff in the head. They're like, you know, instead of seeing like, oh, you know, like a person gets a DUI, or a person, you know, has some kind of accident or a blackout, or, you know, and they drink and they associate that. Well, with us, we just like sort of forget that and remember, oh, that first 10 minutes of that was amazing, man. The last, you know, 2 years I've been in prison.
All the catastrophe, the destroyed relationships, all the chaos, we just like, it's crazy how we could just push that aside to use again, like in our mind.
I know, it's almost, yeah, I mean, it's like, after you've been married, you know, and then people get married again and again. And you're like, why? It didn't work the first time, man. Why would you keep doing that, man? Yeah. That's different, though.
Yeah, this is slightly different. There's more variables involved in that.
Sometimes.
But I think one thing that with addiction and getting treatment, I think I had some pushback, and I think people meant well. They were well intentioned, but this idea that some people don't suffer the same consequences when they use alcohol. So they're like, I could just stop drinking. Why can't you? And from my experience, what it is like, if someone just tells me, oh, just stop drinking, like just hold your liquor, just you can't drink or whatever, just stop on your own willpower, whatever it is, and I'm continuing to suffer and go through these experiences over and over, even though I'm trying to use willpower and not seek treatment, because I've been told, oh, you don't need like that AA stuff, you don't need to go to rehab, or you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need to go to therapy, you can just pray, for example. That's one of the things I've been told, like just go to church. And I'm like, I feel you as far as like, I believe in God, but I don't think that, for one, it's been defined, if I'm not mistaken, as a disease of the mind, the addiction. So just like with any other chronic issue, you go to the hospital for treatment. Right. Like if you have some sort of physical wound or something that's more visible, people are like, oh, you should go to the hospital for that. But when it's more internal, I think it's just not as popular. It's like people are like, oh, you could just hold your liquor, or you don't need that. Just pray about it. Just talk to God.
Just have one beer.
Just have one. Yeah, just have one and stop. Yeah. It's like, but for someone who has an addiction problem, like, that one drink is like getting on a roller coaster without the seatbelt on.
Right.
It's like it's like you could hold on to it for a little bit. You could hold on while it's going, but eventually, it's gonna be catastrophic.
That loopy loop is gonna fuck.
Yeah, that loopy loop.
Yeah, and for any alcoholic who's ever tried to take just one drink, it's like fucking torture, dude. You're like, why?
Even literally, so many clients I've had in the past have like gone out and they're like, I'm just gonna have one. I mean, like, it's a cliche. Like they've all tried that at some point. I've tried that. I'm sure that you guys have tried that
plenty of times.
Yeah, and sometimes you might be able to get away with it one night, but that's about it.
I've had like a couple of times where I was like, oh, I drank and nothing crazy happened. Right. But inevitably, looking in hindsight, it inevitably led up to like going on a bender or a binge. Where I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I did it one night successfully. Now I'm gonna go for like 3 weeks on a binge.
It's like
Yeah.
you just like loaded up your ammo into your thing. Like, all right, now I can
It's
go
like-
fuck myself up.
And it's not even being conscious of it. It's like being like just at that point, once you're in that spiral, it's like relationship, no matter how much you love someone, everything
Yeah.
else is secondary.
Yeah.
It's like relationships, work, food, sleep, all
Yeah.
that shit is secondary when it comes to like, and then anything or anyone that stands in between it when you're active in the addiction, from my experience, is you are an obstacle that I need to get around or through, under, over, whatever the fuck it is, you need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's the craziness of it, and you don't really, until you come to like in a hospital or 5150 or some
Right.
crazy shit, like that's how that one drink for me always
Yeah.
ends up.
You ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like this, it's like a triangle, and it has like, you know, on the bottom it's like basic survival, like food, air, water, and then it kind of goes up, and with every level it's like you add more complexity to our life, and it makes our life more complete. And like I find that like if I drink or if I use, like each one of those things blows up one by one, you know, until where like the only thing that matters at the end is the drug. Like I don't give a shit if I don't eat, I don't give a shit if I don't drink, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit if I don't have housing. It's fine, as long as I
Yeah.
can drink, you know. And like, you know, I lose my kid, I can justify it. Well, he's in a better place. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, we just rationalize, justify the craziness, so we
Right.
can continue to do the substance, the alcohol, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think when I was at Charter, they had one class. It was like one of the family groups they have when they invite other family, and they explain how the brain works. Like when it comes to like you have your and I don't know, I'm just going off what I remember. Like you have your prefrontal cortex, which is like the decision making, like the logic
Executive
and all that.
functioning,
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that we pretty much begin to fry or shrink
Right.
in active addiction. And the more that we use, we become more impulsive,
Right.
where it just you do shit without even a second thought.
Right.
It's just the chaos of it, but it also replaces like where your body's like what is it? Your need for food, water, and shelter. Like we're programmed for that.
Priority list. There's a priority list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just like every time you use it goes, the drug goes further and further up till it's on the top.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is crazy. Like, and that's when you see like people out on the street, just kind of like when they said like the zombie apocalypse or whatever it is. Not to be like talking shit, but like that's the metaphor that's used for it.
Yeah.
Like you see people just out and about, spaced out, like just with the look in there. If you look in people's eyes, they're like that gone look. Which,
Vacant.
yeah, which we've all like. I'm sure I don't know how many times people have come to pull my ass out of my own self-created hell.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you heard the story.
Oh.
You knew, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like-
all of us though.
Yeah,
Not
like,
just you.
yeah, right. It's like we see that look in other people's eyes, like, and I don't think when we're in it, we obviously can't see it. But like when you're in recovery and you're sober, you see another friend or loved one going through, and you're like, holy shit, like, and you're not talking to that person anymore.
No.
It's like when you're trying to talk, like, I love you, like, come on, let's get help, like, and I've had now saying it, I'm like hearing and remembering people saying it to me, like, I love you, I want you to get help, I want you to get better, and I'm just like, not even in tune with her.
What? Yeah.
Whatever the talk is, just like all I'm like thinking is like alcohol. When I'm in an active addiction,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, except like the relationships and shit we destroy from the addiction. So I'm like, I refuse, and I would discourage anybody to listen to people that are like, oh, you don't need rehab, you don't need this. Whatever you need to do to get better. Like if whatever you're doing is not working, then do something different. Like you need to go to rehab, give it a try. You step into the room and say AA, CA, NA, whatever, anything anonymous. I don't give a shit. It's all the same to me. But whatever it is to get help, because I mean, starting to walk through that 12-step program, like I've started to have some more freedom and more like willingness, and it's a little more day by day.
There's so much more to a 12-step program than quitting using your substance. You know, it's like even what you were just saying, when you go and you do like part of the program is bringing the program to other people. You know, and like going out in these 12-step calls and trying to help people like get sober or, you know, get them to treatment or whatever. like, you know, you see yourself in those people, and it's like a constant reminder of like, oh my God, and that further understanding of yourself helps you kind of like delve into the program more, you know, and kind of gives you this understanding of like, they're not there, we're not dealing with because you were there yourself.
Yeah, you're not talking to that person at that moment. It's like you need to just, and if it's someone you're close enough with, sometimes you're gonna be a little more forceful. Like, no, you're going with fucking treatment. Like, you're going, because I'm not gonna stand here and watch you kill yourself. Like, I will fucking drag you. So like, and sometimes that's what it takes. It takes what it takes.
Yeah.
And I mean, and obviously they have to have some sort of willingness to stay.
Yeah.
And do the work, but you can't get them there. Like, I wouldn't just, like, oh, let them do what they do. It's like, no, because people have done that for me a number of times. But
I know. It's hard though, man. It's hard to see people spiraling and not be able to do anything about it, you know, going in there and doing what you can, and then them just going back out. It's frustrating because I've had friends that in and out, and some of them didn't come back, you know, at times. So but like, it's like, and so sometimes it can harden your heart a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I've experienced some of that. Like, and it's a give and take, I think, because I don't know, like, doing the step work though and all of it, and like just the fellowship, like, I initially came in with that hardness of heart. I was just like, just be a monster, just be very like cold and don't allow yourself to get hurt. And I think it applied for like relationships and shit too, because it was just that fear of being hurt again. Yeah. And like, but a lot of it, when I look back in hindsight, wasn't that other people hurt me emotionally. It was like I became a monster in addiction. So I've self-sabotage and fuck up relationships and fuck things up. So, and then want to play victim, like, oh, woe is me, poor me. It's like, no, motherfucker, look at all the shit that you have done in your addiction.
You set up all these dominoes and it's,
what
like, happened?
Oh, I wonder why. And it's like, you have to, and not even put it on the addiction, because you probably have these character defects prior to even doing the addiction, but it does exacerbate and make it 10 times crazier, I feel like, just putting a number on it. But it's our responsibility to address the addiction, whatever it is, whatever the disease is. Like, if you want to live, it's your responsibility to get treatment some type of way, whether it's just going to rehab, whether it's diving into some step work, whether it's using some, whatever it is. Like, because I don't know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I just know doing this shit has worked for me. Yeah. Like, listening, taking suggestions.
I know people that, you know, that have said that they've had problems and they just like, they quit at some point in time, but usually, like, I don't think they don't get what we get out of life, I think, you know, with program. So it's hard for me as a counselor or as a therapist to talk to people about recovery without like encouraging them to like try some kind of 12-step program, because it's just like, man, I'm telling you, man, like, I thought that I had it in the first like year or so. I'm like, okay, I figured out how not to drink and not use. Okay, perfect. And then I was going along, but then like life gets boring, and then the temptation to go back is like kind of starts growing in you.
You remember the exciting parts.
You remember the exciting parts. You forget it, and you feel like your life is boring right now. Right. But if the more you get into 12-step fellowship, to the steps, to working with other alcoholics or addicts, and it's like it opens up doors, man. I haven't looked for a job in 13 years. They've all come to me, all of them. You know, like I'm up for a job right now that is like as a director position, and I didn't even like. Somebody just called me like, hey, would you consider? I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, dude, they don't even, I'm in my mind, I'm like, they don't even know who the fuck I am. Like, 13 years ago, I would have been threatening their mother for $5, you know? Give me the fucking money! You know what I mean? Yeah, but you know, like, that's what I mean, like, it just, your life expands so much further than I ever expected it to, you know? So, I don't know, I mean, like, I feel like a rah 12-stepper, but, you know, I feel...
I've learned that, like, I just learned to stop giving a shit. I'm like, this shit has helped me and quite a few people that I know. I've seen their lives change for the better. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not crazy about it. It works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just like, because I've seen...
Nothing worked for me before.
Yeah, I'm like, I've seen what crazy is for me. Like, I've seen it, and I've blackouts and all the 5150s, and just enough shit where I'm just like, okay, I'm doing this, let me see if it works. I'm always willing to, like, when it comes to something that's good, sounds like it's going to be beneficial, I'll experiment, I'll give it a shot. and so far this is what it's done. And yeah, it's given me a foundation to get back to music, because doing the 12 steps makes you look at yourself, for one.
Yeah.
Like, and go internally, and like, I think I was more playing the blame game a lot initially. It was like being that social chameleon, not really knowing who I was. I knew I was creative, but figuring out and dealing with like traumas and whatever it was, or just healing from it, and just facing shit, like taking accountability for shit, the wrongs and shit, and like, despite how people respond to you trying to make amends to it, just like, okay, I was fucked up, I did wrong, and this is what I'm willing to do in order to make it right, if you're willing to accept, or what can I do, rather, to make it right. And some people are like, fuck off, I never want to see you again. Some people are like, oh, cool, I'm just glad you're clean and sober, like I know who you are as a sober person, but when you're out under the influence, you're a monster.
Right. I just think it's one of those things where you kind of like, I find people in the program that like I just want to be like, you know, whether it's like Matt or, you know, Les, or just like a few guys that and when I examine what I like about them, it's like that peace that they exude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I'm looking for that. And I mean, I have some serenity, but you know, like when you meet some people and you're like, okay, I want that, and I never wanted that before. Before I just wanted chaos, you know. Like I think in my drug addiction and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Did you like to thrive in chaos or what?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I almost felt like I was boring without it. You know what I mean? Like me as myself was like boring. You know, like not exciting. You know what I mean? I felt like I had to hold on to all that hurt to be unique. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it just I saw like normies and stuff, and I was like, God, they're so fucking boring. You know what I mean? They're so lame, man. They have not been through the trenches, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think a part of me like wanted to like hold on to that. You know what I mean? That hurt. Like didn't want to allow myself to be too happy. Like I feel like lose my uniqueness. You know what I mean? Like,
So true.
Yeah.
I feel like that especially applies to like growing up. I used to see like all the artists and stuff that I would look up to. They were like, it seemed like they kind of glorified, or it was apparent that they had a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction or something with all this suffering. So I thought, like, when I started like getting into songwriting and poetry and all that, I'm like, that cliche saying that pain makes for great art.
Yeah.
So I thought if I was gonna be happy, that I had to sabotage this shit, because if I'm happy, I'm not gonna be able to make great music. So I have to.
Great.
Yeah. So I thought like, even on a subconscious level, looking back on it, like I would self-sabotage. Like I was in relationships with women that were great, they were fucking awesome. But I think part of me just was almost happy. Then I started sabotaging everything, because I'm like, part of me was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to create. And I just had this belief growing up, so I'm like, I have to be miserable in order to create. And it stuck with me for a long time, and I think it poured over into other aspects like relationships, friendships, work, social life, like just everything, financial. So where I was just like, I have to destroy myself in order to be creative. Like I just thought that was the way. So like you said, like holding on to that as a part of your identity, like I'm angry, I'm miserable, like I have to be, otherwise I'm not me, because this is, I could recognize that. So before going through the 12 steps the first time, and I know it's like a lifelong process, but it opened my eyes to a lot of shit. That in addition to therapy, like I do weekly therapy, and I think that has been beneficial in addition to the steps, because for me, I'm like, utilize all the sources you can get. I thought I was extra fucked up, so I thought I needed a little more assistance, but
no, you know, like, and I appreciate that so much, because you know, like over the years, like it was hard for me to get like hardcore into programming, because like I said, I was like sort of forced into it, I think, in the first bit of it. And so like, and I was still kind of holding on to this like teenage angst, so like, fuck, those guys are so fucking happy, fuck you guys, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they're so fucking stupid, you know, but then eventually, you know, you gotta get there, and then, you know, and then like, I just let it all go. I let that like, that thing that made me think it was like I internalized that addiction was like kind of like part of me in some way, and like letting it go completely scared me, thinking that I wouldn't be cool anymore.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I'll always be cool.
Yes.
Oh man! And you know what? The other thing that I've realized is like, you know, I was married and I got divorced, you know, in sobriety, and I've been in a few relationships along the way, and like every time like I get further in the program, because like I thought, you know, at some point, like I thought, oh, that's it. I'm at the top. I'm at level 33 or whatever, and I'm like, that's fine. Now I'm good. And then I just keep leveling up. You know, sometimes it takes me a while to level up, but I'll keep leveling up, or I feel like I am.
Yeah.
And like the dating world is even completely different for me, because like I'll date somebody who's beautiful and or you know, like I'll think that she's beautiful, like visually I'm like, wow, that's nice, you know, and then you'll go out with them a couple times and I'll just be like fucking bored.
Yeah.
I'm like, she has nothing for me, you know what I mean? And then like so like what I'm looking for is something completely different than what I used to look for. I still look, you know, obviously attractiveness is gonna always be there,
sure.
but like actually, you know, having like depth of character is like something I never thought about, and you know, it feels like I'm a fucking grown up finally. You know?
When I grow up,
exactly. I'm 52 and I just grew up. Yeah, long time, guys.
Long time.
They do say you're as old as when you start using. Yeah, so we start growing again. Like when we give our brains a chance to heal. Like I'm just at over 5 months in like maybe 2 weeks or something like that.
Woohoo!
Thank you. And it's been like, I think I've had the most transformative time period within this 5 months because I was willing to do the work. And because I just immersed myself in the program. I took all that pain of the heartbreak and the frustration, the rage, and just threw myself into like, what is recovery?
Yeah.
And it was just learning about this shit and like actually taking the tools and applying them once I got out of rehab, because it's easy to stay sober when you're in rehab.
Totally.
So,
four walls around you, no
right?
alcohol.
Yeah, just once you get out into the world and like life starts happening when you get back to work, and you have to face the chaos that you left behind and like the people that you've hurt and like in different ways, and it's like addressing that and like damn, like and doing the 12 steps so you become a different person, so that you're able to face these people and like acknowledge this is what I did. I apologize. Is there something I can do to make it right? And you're not going to them expecting, I mean, you're supposed to go without expectations of how they're going to respond, but just hopeful that they'll take it as like, and forgive you.
Yeah.
For some people, it's just not the case, but it's going through the steps. And it's not to say that it doesn't hurt at all if someone says like, fuck off.
Yeah.
But it allows you to like walk through the process and walk through difficult things and make amends and shit. And I think even people that are not alcoholics or addicts could probably benefit from doing that 12-step process, because it's very therapeutic. Like it makes you do that deep work that even my therapist, she's familiar with the 12 steps.
Oh yeah.
And she likes to she likes, I guess not incorporate it, but she'll like, well yeah, incorporate it into like our treatment plan. She's like, so what's the next goal? Like, what's your part of this? Like, so
how are you powerless in this situation?
Right,
Dude,
yeah.
like I do the same thing as a therapist.
So it's helpful, man.
I'm all I'll fool them into being 12-steppers.
Right. But yeah, man, it's I'm just grateful because now I'm able to like work on music that I've actually wanted to work on. I started taking singing lessons, and that is something I always wanted to do. I tried it before, but I think I just didn't have. I think I was still active in my drinking, where I was like, I could just drink occasionally, but it always would fuck something up where I just was so unstable.
Yeah.
But once I decided sobriety was it, then I had more energy, more time, more money, more willingness. Yeah, money, like everything. I started paying off like debts and shit, and like I started working with like a financial planner, and like able to start like managing the whole music thing a lot more intelligently,
Right.
as opposed to just when it comes to being creative, I'm still like very impulsive. I'll just like get an idea and I'm like, fuck it, do it. Because I feel like that's just what, for me, what's so creativity. Yeah, like you're not supposed to have this, oh, am I gonna do it right? That's even like with doing this video, when I hit you up about it, I'm like, oh, how, if I was thinking, I was like, well, I saw this podcast and they do it like this and like that. I'm like, fuck it, just get the camera and sit in front of this shit and talk about it. Like, just fucking do it. Worry about the other shit later.
Yeah.
And the shit works out, dude, like just creatively, but if I didn't have a clear sense of purpose from being sober, there would be no point. I wouldn't have been able to get in touch with Millie to do the song, and working with Rich and Daniel over at Prime Royal Studios in San Dimas, like just being able to connect with people, because, and it's crazy, the people that God put in my life, that are like key players in my life, have seemed to know someone who has been in addiction or is like very close to someone, but they get it.
They understand.
They understand, but they see when you're actually doing the work, as opposed to just making the excuse of like, oh, well, I'm this, or I can't help it. And it's like, no, you can. Like, you just have to be willing to first admit and then get help.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing I wasn't willing initially. And people tried, like so many broken hearts, I'm sure, of people that tried to help, that I look back on, and hopefully I get to make amends to those people. But it wasn't until I felt enough pain, and I was like at my bottom, and I lost enough, and everything was done. At least in my point of view, it was done.
You know, one of the things that trips me out about it, like being in the program is like, seeing people like Taylor, like I love you, dude. Like you're like an amazing dude, and so like to see you struggle with it over the time I've known you, it's like hard to do. But seeing you come back in is really inspiring to me. You know what I mean? And I'm like the dude is like, I mean, it's so easy to just go fuck it. You know what I mean? And keep going in that direction, and to actually turn around and go like, my life is worth more than something, and than that. And come back. That's amazing. And you too, man. Like I've seen how bad it is for you when you're out. I've seen how bad it is for you when you're out too. And to see you come back so strong, and you've been working this for 5.5 months now, and like it's like it makes me look at my program, and I love that, man. I love the inspiration that stems from all this work that we do. It's not just us anymore. It's it's not just me. It's us.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a trip to think about my mindset, like just recently when I was out there, like homeless, and like luckily I had a car, so like I had some kind of shelter at night, you know what I mean, and just like drinking myself to death, you know what I mean, or like, if drugs came along, that was cool, whatever, but anything I could put in my body and like, just to feel something. You know what I mean? And then like, and knowing that there's a better alternative out there, like a better way of life, and like having like, just like having like a small glimpse of it, even for a second, and then choosing to stay in the filth. You know what I mean? Like, just like, this is my life. This is what I'm choosing to do. I'm choosing to drink and be homeless in a car. Like,
it's like, it sounds terrible,
like,
right?
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, when you're
like,
sober, but when you're in
I'm
it.
like, and then like someone would be like, hey, you want to go to a meeting? And I'd be like, no!
I like it in here.
I know.
It stinks, I know, but still.
I will not go.
Yeah.
They're like, there isn't a toilet in the back seat. You go, what?
What?
I've been using it as that.
It's just a trip. The torture we put ourselves through just to get the drink or the drug or whatever, just to fucking get that small euphoric feeling is like worth, at the time, like worth all of the torture, the freaking depression, the just
it's
misery.
Like it doesn't make any logical sense. Like you said, the prefrontal cortex, which makes all the executive decisioning, turned off.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm gonna drink.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be home, or I'm gonna have a home, or I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna drink. Like that doesn't make any sense. So like family and friends, see you go through all this shit, and they're like, well, how can you choose that? What's wrong with you? And and the fact of the matter is, it's like it's your brain is broken, man. Just going. And this is another part that trips me out, is like a lot of people will go to 30 days of treatment, and then they'll go home to their wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriend, whatever, family, and they'll be coming to like outpatient when I was working outpatient more. Yeah. And they would just be like, dude, like they're such dicks to me, you know what I mean? But it's a trip, man, because you don't understand what you put these fuckers through for like the last umpteen years. And then like, so what it's like is like you've done this dance with them for however many years, where you're good for a little while, and then maybe you're undercover drinking, and then it all falls apart, and it all looks like shit to them, and so then they're like never knowing what to do. Like I remember me and a partner used to do a group when I was working at Charter years ago, and we would go into group, sit down, and just be quiet for like 8 to 10 minutes. I could never make it past 10 minutes because it's just impossible. I'm such a I want to make people comfortable. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. And they would just be doing we would just be looking at them and just like not smiling, not doing anything. And it would be so funny because the group would have all these stages, right? They'd stop, like when you first come in the group, they're all, I was talking, and then it kind of like gets quiet. And after like a minute or two, and then it's like, are you guys gonna go? Like, what's happening? And then they're like, are they mad with us? And then they're like, ha ha, like some people are laughing, and it's like, there's all this fucking anxiety. Some people get like, fuck it, man, I paid for this, so I'm gonna leave, like have all kinds of reactions, and finally at 8 minutes, I'm all, this is a test, you're under the test, this is what your family feels. Your family, you change your role, because our role in treatment is to go in there and just to be like, hey, blah, 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 here's education, here's, processing, blah, blah, blah. You go in there, change your role, and nobody knows how to feel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so going home and you're that role, it's like the fucked up role you've been playing for 20 years, you know what I mean?
And then they're like for 30 days, and you expect them to be like, oh, you're good now. It's like you've literally trained them to respond to you this way, to the craziness and the chaos. So
so it's like a built-in anxiety you've put in on all your people, And so to expect them to be normal after a short time is ridiculous. Like we are. Mostly, we're pretty ridiculous in general.
Yeah, exactly. It was such a trip for me to like have like normal relationships in life, like friendships.
You don't even know what they are, right?
No, because it's like my family was so fucked up growing up that it was like normal to be all like, like be all fucked up and shit, and then I come back and they'd be like, oh, he's better, and they're drinking, and they're fucked up, and they're like,
like, congratulations,
you're sober, you graduated, dude. Yeah. You did it. Hey.
Who's driving? I don't know, we'll play rock, paper, scissors.
Right. Let's take shots. Let's do it. And it was like, fuck, dude, that it's just like, then I get into these normal relationships, and I'd like come back, or like when I was last time I was out, I was at a friend's house, and she offered me. She was like, "Hey, so you can either go to treatment, but you can't stay here, but we'll totally take you to treatment." And I was like, "Whoa, dude!" Like like it was just so weird. Like I felt like offended. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they were literally doing like the healthy response to help me instead of enabling me, and I just like was like, "This is fucked up."
Yeah.
I'm like, just
you're mean to me right now.
Yeah. Why are you doing it? Like it actually wasn't. It was more like a guilty. Like I was just like, no, it's all good. I'm gonna take off. Thank you for everything. Bye. And like just went out on the street again.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
and I was like,
literally,
just like
I went through.
Just like instead of just taking the help that they're like the healthy help that they were trying to give me, I was just like, oh, this feels weird. Nope.
It's good. I think we're used to chaos and toxicity. Yeah. So when people that are like healthy, and they can respond to dysfunction in a healthy way, we're just like so used to the dysfunction. Like, no. Yeah, what are you doing? What do you mean go to the hospital and get help? What are you talking about? Like, it just doesn't register. It's like, they're saying go to the hospital, and you're thinking like, I'm trying to go to the liquor store.
Yeah, like I can't drink in the hospital.
Right? Yeah, literally. Like, that's craziness, dude.
Yeah.
What's funny is I think even years later, like my mind still is fucked up. Like I was like, I went to prison. I had a case with this one guy. He went to prison for 12 years. I got 27-month sentence, and he's like contacting me as he's getting out of prison, and then he starts threatening me. And I'm like, okay, so like, all right, I'll just go get a gun, and I'll just carry a gun with me, and it'll be fine. And then I'm a felon. I get pulled over. That's 5 years in prison for one. Plus, it's dangerous. And then or I could just call his probation officer and go, hey, he's bothering me. And I'm all, oh yeah. That's right, I can do that. But but my first reaction is, let me go get myself in some trouble.
Yeah.
You know, let me fucking carry a gun, maybe shoot somebody on accident or something.
I ain't no snitch.
Yeah, like I ain't no cop collar. Fuck cops. You know, I'm like, no, I'm a cop collar now. I'm cool with that.
I'm cool now.
Cops, hi, can you help me, please? It's so funny though, because I remember calling people, that motherfucker's a cop collar. I'm like, yeah, because you're doing something illegal. That's why he's calling the cops. You robbed him.
You robbed him. How dare you?
You ass.
That logic sometimes is nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, so you kill somebody, like, oh, they call the cops somebody. You literally killed someone.
Yeah, it's in the commandments, bro. It's a really old one, you know? It's like goes back thousands of years.
Yeah, and like that was so so like there's been a lot of like, I've been through like child services a lot growing up and whatnot, and
It's weird because you're in your 30s. It's weird they would do that to you.
Yeah.
Take you for your mom. Get a full beard.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Foster home.
Hi Brenda. It's me. Yeah, but like, you know, I would get so mad at the people that like literally, like one time I was staying with my sister and I was like 13.
You're falling,
and,
scoot a little bit this way, you're falling out the
and you know, like she was doing meth and she had this tweaker boyfriend who was like just crazy as all hell, you know what I mean? And like that environment, like they'd be up all night and all day and stuff like that, and it was just normal to me, you know what I mean? Like it was just totally normal. And you know, I had my niece, like, and I was like super close with my niece and I'd watch her all the time. And then like child services got called once by my friend's mom, and I freaking got so mad at the mom. Yeah. I was like, why would she do this to me? And I freaking like stopped being friends with that person. Like I was like, dude, your mom's crazy. You know, I was like, how could she do this to me? And like literally I was like in a meth house, you know, like, and like, you know, like trying to make freaking food for my niece and me, and like, you know, just like
literally, this kid is super dangerous.
Yeah, in danger, you know, like not going to school.
It is,
you know, like
be mad at someone for helping the kid.
How dare they?
How the audacity to do the right thing.
Mad. I was, you know, like, and that happened, like that situation happened a few times, like in places that I was staying with. You know, there were multiple times where I just like, you know, like my sister,
unbelievable, right?
And I were so close that I just wanted to be with my sister, you know, and then I'd go to these healthy households for like short terms, or they'd try to take me in, and it was just so weird, like having rules and all these things, you know, that I was just like, these people are mean, you know, like, and it was just so unnormal for me that I just hated it. I hated it, and you know, looking back on it, I was like, man, I just think about how different my life would have been if I would have just stayed with one of those healthy families. You know what I mean?
But you know, the cool thing is that like you're like, you've been in and out a few times, but like you already know the rules that you grew up with are wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like when someone calls you a cop collar, you're like, yeah, it's okay to be a cop collar, right? You know, like now. But when you were younger, somewhat. Right?
You know, that's still a little bit of angst is there, like, but yeah, for sure. Like I know the difference now. You know what I mean?
And you can like smell toxicity when you talk to people. You're like, oh, that motherfucker's toxic.
Yeah.
I just like I'm good. I'm like, cause one of my character defects was like ghosting people.
Oh.
And I still kind of like will do that. Like
me too.
Like dude, they used to call me a Black Casper, dude.
Yeah.
I'll be out of there. But at first it was like, let's say cowardice, because I would like avoid conflict with people instead of like, if I did something wrong, or instead of just discussing it, I was like, oh fuck them, I'll just try to act and rationalize and like be angry at them instead of like, okay, I did this wrong, let me just, hey, my bad, I screwed up, like, are you willing to forgive me? Or it will be that people are just like possibly dangerous, like to like just in general, where they're like, this person is like gonna get me in jail or some shit, or, like, because like just the way that they're going about life. So I'm just like, I'm good. But even in recovery, like, I wouldn't necessarily say I ghost people still, but it would be like, I will distance myself, and I won't, like, you don't have to be friends with everybody.
Right.
Like, just because it's recovery, it's not like this automatic, like, oh, we're all friends. Like, I have some people that I'm very close with, but there's people where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
Like, I'm good. But you learn like healthy ways where you're not looking at the people with like necessarily hatred or anger or resentment. It's just like, okay, you're in a different space with your recovery, and I'm not trying to be right there. Like, if I can offer you help, like to go to a meeting or something like that, yeah, but I'm not gonna jeopardize myself or my safety to try to help to the extent like when you can get the help. Because if you're just doing crazy shit, then I'm not gonna like, oh, I can help. It's like, no, you know that you're doing crazy shit. It's like just not. It's like finding a balance between that shit, because you can try to be of service to the point where it's to your detriment.
Right.
Where like you don't put yourself in crazy ass situations. Like, you're not gonna walk in between two people that are having a gunfight. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
like come on.
Yeah. But recovery is you learn how to read, you learn how to do life.
And like, it's cool because like I love Matt, your guy, and like, but yeah, people, your guy. Sponsor people. Sponsor. Not guy. He's a sponsor.
He's like your guy.
Yeah, I don't want to say it out loud, but no, I just like, that's cool because like being, like having somebody like that in your life, being attracted to somebody like tells me a lot about like where you're trying for, because like, some people like have these sponsors that are just as fucked up as they were before they got sober, except they're just not using anymore. And I'm always like, I don't see how he's gonna help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it took me bouncing around sponsors to really find someone that clicked. And like at first, like I went, with just some dude. I heard a story and I was like, oh, that's cool, and just asked him, and like it worked all right, for the first half of my sobriety in California, and then I just went on my own morals and did my own thing. It had nothing to do with like my sponsor at the time, but when I came back, I was like, all right, maybe that wasn't working. Maybe I'll try someone else. So I went for someone who was like high ranking in the, it was like, man, that dude, he's like a general in the army, and then he was a really good dude and everything. We just didn't click, you know what I mean? And it just wasn't working, and then I went for someone else, and that didn't work. And then finally I found my last sponsor, or this current sponsor that I have now, is just like, every time I'd be in a situation, he would talk to me and give me the best advice, and it was soothing to my soul.
Dude, I call him the white boy.
I just like,
he's fucking amazing. Yeah, he's amazing.
Like every time he would just be like, hey, he'd just like pick me out of the crowd and be like, hey, what's going on? How are you? And he would just like ask questions that would like, normally I'd be like, hey, what's up? Cool, whatever. But like he would just like say it in a certain way that I'd just be like, well, I don't know. And like, I was like, man, and this time around I was like, I'm going to ask him to sponsor me. And like, it's been great.
There's something about, specifically him. I mean, there's a few people, like I mentioned, like the first time I heard Matt speak at like a meeting, I was like, I got to meet that guy afterwards. I want to have him on my show, or, like, I just want to talk to him. And like Kevin's one of the guys, Matt's one of the guys. Les, I don't know if you guys know Les. He's an old dude. He's like 80 years old, but he's just like super like chill. Like you see him and you're like, oh, calm down. I'll just go over and talk to him. I mean, just like those guys. Those guys are those ones are the ones that like I want that.
Yeah. It is attraction. It's like you have to. You see something in someone's spirit. It's like, okay, like they have been in the trenches, obviously, because they're here in the rooms of AA, so they have that condition, and now they're at peace. So like, let me see what they're talking about. That was the same for me, and I got like basically between him and Dive, I got like the sponsor and the sponsor mom.
Yeah, totally.
So I got like a package deal.
Yeah.
She gets on my ass just as much. Like she'll tell me shit. But it's awesome to have that family, that unity, and that camaraderie, that fellowship, to be able to people that will
lean on.
Yeah. And they will not like, what do you call it, co-sign your bullshit. They will help you in any way they can when you're ready. Yeah. They won't force you to try to like, they're like, are you done drinking? Are you done? Yeah. And then they'll be there to help. But if you're still going, they're like, okay, you still need to get a couple more bumps and bruises.
Call me when you're done.
Yeah, call me when you're done. And it's like, you can do nothing but respect that, because otherwise it would be enabling, like trying to baby you and like, oh, well, come on, like, but people that don't have the addiction, who haven't been through it, they may do that just out of genuine like concern, trying to help you, because they don't know. But people who have been through it, they're like, you can't manipulate them. Like,
they already know.
Yeah, they know. So you can't do all the bullshit, the addiction that we will do to try to stay using.
Yeah.
And today I'm just fucking grateful for it, dude, because it literally saved my life. Like, it literally saved my life, and I'm like, shit, with music is moving in a positive direction. I feel like I've changed as a person, because previously, like, my music was like just coming from this angry space, like I was saying earlier, where I had to make myself miserable and destroyed. So when I felt happy, like relationships or anything, like I felt weird slightly. So it's just that self-sabotage. But now I'm like, I feel like going through the steps the first time, it allowed me to make that shift, that spiritual change that I needed to make in order to like make music from a different place, from like, I want to spread music that's like, allows you to walk through my journey and my struggles with me, but it's ultimately going in an uphill direction, positive uphill direction.
I love that.
So like, in that, before that wasn't the ideal, it was just like, I think it was more like ego-driven, money-driven. Part of it was, it's always been partly creativity, just that is my therapeutic thing. But a lot of it was, like, it had the wrong motivators. So now I'm just like, oh, I just want to create just to create. That's why I'll just do whatever, like poetry, alternative rap, or singing. That's why I took the lessons, because I'm like, I've been hearing these rhythms and shit in my head, like the song. I'm like, if I just know how to like read sheet music and like sing and do the notes and like learning it, it's crazy, because it's like a whole new language when you're looking at the half note and the quarter note, how many beats it is, and like you put the pitch, rhythm together, and it's like, it's just crazy. It's like, it's a beautiful thing to learn. And like, it's just like, I'll get like so excited like a kid as I'm learning, even making the mistakes, you're like, okay, I didn't hit that note right, but I'm doing it again, go it again, go it again. It's like, you get this like childish like inspiration, or you're just like,
and you can go over and over and over. Like, and nowhere else in your life does it matter. Like, it's like, if you have a job and you have to do something 3 or 4 times till you get it, that's fine. But like, nowhere else in your life will you do something over and over to make it perfect, just for the fact of making it perfect.
Right. Yeah, just for the sake of like, I hit that note.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of music, dude. And it's awesome that it's like so much like people doing recovery out loud, and people in music artists and actors and all these people recovering out loud. Like, hey, I'm not gonna just kind of be in the shadows about it, which like, I respect everything about the traditions, but also acknowledge the fact that it was like written in probably before computers. So I'm like, but so it's just like, to each their own. Like, I respect, because there's some old timers that are like, no, you shouldn't be posting anything about anything. Like, and I respect them as people, but I respect your opinion. I'm still gonna do what I'm gonna do. So, but I respect you, what you're saying. Like, I hear you. But yeah, I feel like it's just a beautiful tool to be able to use, and to, I mean, just spread the message. It's easy to spread the message of chaos and craziness. So, like,
I mean, and it's, I don't know, like, I think when they were talking about like that, you know, that being secretive and all, I think it was more like, I mean, dude, to share with somebody that you're not drinking and you're not using, is like, it's like my fucking right, dude. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to tell them about the steps right away, or, you know. And like, when people come to know you, you know, they know that, oh, I'm going to a meeting. What kind of meeting are you going to? I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm not going to make some shit up. Like, I'm going to an AA meeting. Like, and most people, I mean, I think when they said that too initially, like the whole, because if you read like, what was it, the preface, or one of the first 4, I think, they were like, told the media and press, like, we will be handicapped if you spread the message, like, by publicizing us, because like there's only very few of us. So that was when there was like a couple hundred. Now there's
millions.
Millions of people. So it's not like it's like the cat's kind of out of the bag. And I'm not like going against the grain or anything. I'm just saying that at a different time, I'm like, so, but I get and I respect them.
And I've heard different opinions on it. I'm like,
yeah, but I'm gonna post some shit. I'm gonna, like, well, I feel you, but I'm gonna post some shit.
I'll post. I definitely post some stuff, but I don't ever post anything like about steps or anything like that, but I do post stuff about sobriety. I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's a good fucking message, right? I mean,
Agreed.
and for people to know that there are other people that are as cool as me.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like I would love that. Like when I started hearing artists, you know, that were like sober, I'm like, oh, like, you know, even when Eminem got sober, I think he got sober like right before me or something, a couple years before
It
me.
was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Can I ask, when a normie asks you guys what AA is, how do you respond? Like, how would you explain?
I just
AA?
hit him in the face. Man, shut up! Don't say anything.
Don't say
Shut the
anything.
fuck up.
Like,
Doesn't exist.
Because I've had normies ask me, or at work or whatever, where like I'm pretty open about it. You know what I mean? Like, or if they're like, hey, you know, you drink? You want to have a few beers after work? I'm like, oh, I'm actually in AA. I'm sober. I'm in a program. And they're like, oh, what's AA? And I'm like, well, it's a program. You know, and I kind of get lost for words. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, I'm like, it's spiritual. And they're like, oh, like religious? And I'm like, no. You know, it's like a way of life. And they're like, so you're in a cult? And I'm like, oh, yes. No, it's
Kinda.
it's like how to be a good person. And like, you know, it's like, I'm like, well, maybe. Am I?
I always go like, it's kind of like
Like,
a
why
good
do I
cult.
want
It's like the bad cult. The bad cults make you give them all your money, and it takes away all you separates you from your family. And like a good cult would be, you know, taking very little of your money and bringing you closer to your family. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, cool. I'm good with that.
Fair enough.
It's like
You know, so
the
it's just
anti-cult.
Yeah, it's a trip to like try to explain it in words. You know what I mean? Like it's tough to really just like describe all of what the program is to like someone who has no idea what you know, or even like, or hasn't really dealt with any addicts in their life. They're just like, huh, you know, and they're like, so it's like, and like, it's kind of teaches you how to be a better person, and they're like, oh, wow, you know, wow,
okay.
You know,
You could have just asked me.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I guess a way I would explain it to someone who had no idea, I'd probably tell them like, it's a program, it's these 12 steps, and within these 12 steps, it allows you to change your perspective on life, because I am an alcoholic, and when I drink, it exacerbates these issues that I have not faced, that are like, whether it's selfishness, self-centeredness, codependency, all these different things, like just functioning normal with other humans in society. Like I had to relearn because I was dysfunctional. Like I was, like my way of living was dysfunctional. So like behaving normally, like I've learned to like, with these 12 steps to be able to live life again. And it's a process, like it's a process that you have to go through and experience yourself in order to fully understand it. I can't like give you the, what do you call it, Cliff Notes version of it, but it's like 12 steps that'll change your life if you allow it to. It just allows you to like live life on life's terms. Yeah, I guess would be the shortest way. That was pretty fucking long, but
right? Like it's hard to like you know, like narrow it down and do an explanation. You know, you're like, well, how much time do you have?
Or maybe take them to a meeting.
I have this book, all right?
Right.
Read this entire book.
We'll come back.
And we'll come back.
That's the point where you call Sparky. That's when you call. That's when you call your spouse. Like, hey, bro, this person has a question. You could answer.
Probably would answer it so like perfectly
dude,
too. Like,
straight like Buddha, dude. He's like floating.
Yeah.
He's like,
I mean, I think that I think that like if they have something to learn from it, they'll hear me, and if they don't, like if they're like a normie and they're never gonna use it, like they won't, you know. But I always start off with like, you know, I don't know how you are with your drinking, but when I start my drinking, it you know, I break out in handcuffs, and I get arrested, I lose my kid, you know, and so like. So like I needed to figure out why I would go back to something like that, and so this program helped me kind of unravels like who I am to me, because I think I hid in my chemicals, you know, like I used to hide in my chemicals because like I I didn't ask the questions about myself. I just did whatever was in front of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I stopped doing those things, like it's like forcing you to look at yourself. And then, so if I don't do a program of like this, then I get stuck in video games. I get stuck in pornography. I get stuck in gambling. I get stuck in something else that's fucked up for me. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like this is just it's like a thing that enables me to see who I am and try to like.
I like that, hide in the chemicals.
Yeah,
I fucking hid for so long, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I started using such a young age that freaking I just like never developed or anything, and then I was like, left all these feelings and stuff when I was sober, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, you know. I feel like I'm like a little kid in a grown-up's body. Like I'm like, what's happening here? Like, I'm all flabby.
Why do I have hair on me? What happened? Where did this come from? Yeah,
Oh my god.
I know, man. It's a trip. It really is.
It's an awesome journey. Like, I'm grateful to be on it because shit, life was crazy, different internally and externally 5.5 months ago. Like it was, and it was my own doing. Like self-created hell, causing hell for other people. Like so now I'm just like sticking to it, man, and just. I think the most enjoyable part is being able to make music from a different place.
Yeah.
And just like being able to live life and like be able to make these amends and like be accountable for shit and like move forward. And that's the best thing is like being able to stay present and like not to dwell on the past, but like go make right what you can, the wrongs, and be able to move forward despite anything. And like it gives you the opportunity to have a future because shit, just staying present, like doing that one thing at a time. Like, cause there's shit going on in my life currently, but I'm like, okay, what's the next step that I could do? Okay, make this call, do this, file this, fax this over, do whatever. Like just taking steps and like, so life doesn't become like making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah.
But initially you kind of get that fear, that kickstart, that knee-jerk reaction when some shit happens, like, fuck. But now I'm like, I do a lot of meditation and prayer, and I'm like, all right, I can, God, what is it? Like, I know, show me what I need to do, I'm gonna do my shit, and you do your part, and shit's good. Shit always tends to work out. I'm not like, for me, it's been that probably in life. Like, I've been fortunate to some situations I put myself into, how I got out of it without like way worse consequences, but by the grace of God, I say, so.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I feel like the longer I stay in and I stay sober and I stay present, the more I see how like higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, is working in my life. You know what I mean? Like shit works out. Higher power. How it works in my life. You know, like all of a sudden, like I'm like, oh, this situation is impossible, and then like this door out of nowhere just opens up, and I walk through it, and then that impossible is possible all of a sudden, you know. And it's like, I do get stuck in anxiety sometimes when I don't see the door that's opening fast enough for me.
Sure.
But I kind of have people around me too, you know, like when I have some shit, you know, like I got people around me that are just fucking awesome. That, you know, I had like things that happen in your life, you know, like hard situations. 6-7 months ago, I had a hard situation that happened to me. It came out of left field for me, and you know, like I wouldn't have made it to where I am if it wasn't for people in program, you know, and for you, for all the people, you know. I mean, you weren't there day 1, but you were there day 82. You know, when I was feeling bad, you know, you were there day 85, you know, bowling with me, you know, you guys were there, you know, and just cracking me up or getting me through that moment, you know. That's fucking beautiful. It really is. It's such a beautiful thing. And I was talking to my mom recently. It was interesting because I'm out staying with her right now, helping her through some medical stuff, and she's like, I'm like, so am I like a lot different than I was 13 years ago? And she's like, she kind of like sat there and thought about it for a while. And she's like, you know, she's all, no, you're not, because you always were who you are right now. But in that time when you were using that 20-year period you were using, or 25-year period you're using, like you hid yourself in there. You couldn't be who you are right now when you were using. but like you've always been this guy, and I was like, I thought it was really interesting because I'm like, oh, okay, so like she always sees, growing up with her, obviously, she always saw me as who I am now, and she just like, it was like there was like this barrier between me and you for those years that you were using, and sometimes it'd be less of a barrier, like if I wasn't using as much, and then sometimes it was more of a barrier when I was isolating completely, not seeing her, or seeing her just every once in a while and being high or whatever, so I feel like it's just such a blessing to be where I'm at today. And I seen like you, man, where you're at, man, it's beautiful, and you too, man. Like I love it. I love it that you guys are here. You continue staying here when you don't have to be here, and that like you're growing. That's what this whole thing's about. Just keep growing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? I know we've been at this shit for a minute. I don't know how long.
Oh, an hour, 10 minutes. That's it. Jesus
Christ.
Christ. Oh my God.
I don't know. It's like the time limit and shit.
I was thinking 25, 30 minutes right now.
Shit, are you serious?
Yeah, I didn't know we were going this long.
Dude, that's why I was like, it would be better if it was just natural, just like.
It was natural. It felt natural.
Yeah, just like we're just
like
shooting the shit, which I think is probably the best way.
Yeah.
And like even when I post, like what I'll do is like just probably post a snippet of it on fucking Instagram and just tag all of us on the Facebook and shit.
Right.
And then drop the whole interview like on the fucking YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Because like you can't post an hour long fucking thing on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I think yeah.
Cool.
And I wanna you're gonna start your podcast up at some point again, no?
Yeah, over Les.
Yeah.
He got an extra room in his house, and he's gonna let me set it up over there. So
Dude.
so me and Dive will be there, and like I'd love to have you come in and co-host for me or for her one of these days. And
Hell yeah, dude.
And I mean, Taylor, when you get your year, for sure I want you on the show.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
you're obviously gonna be on the show at a year too. But
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's my limit. Like I want people to
A
have
year
a year
of sobriety.
Yeah.
I think that's solid.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's funny, man. Out of all the people we've interviewed, like 120, 130 people, something like that. There's only been two people that relapsed, and both of them are back in now for multiple years. So I'm like, that's pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
If you think about
Yeah,
it,
it's cool. Fuck yeah.
But yeah.
Final thoughts. Let me say, I'm grateful to be sober. I want to say shout out to Millie Blooms in the UK.
Shout out to Millie.
Shout out to Billy.
That's right. And then Prime Royal Studios. Mercula Music is is the beat maker for this song called Rains It Pours. It's gonna be by Multifaceted Monster, myself, and Millie Blooms. And the release date is to be determined, but I don't want to rush it because it's a beautiful song. So we have some more work to do on it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you both for participating in my recovery.
Thanks, bro.
Fuck
Show.
yeah.
Dude,
Show, man.
I love it.
Love it. Alrighty, y'all. Y'all will see me when I see y'all when I post it. Bye.